it's kind of crazy that there's no other database period of pest data, especially that's constantly updated based on time and location. And I honestly think that the whole reason behind that is of this huge problem of how do you get all of these universities to agree. Some of them don't even necessarily use just university organizations. Some of them use options outside of academia. And then how do you get all these universities to agree and trust each other and create one standard of data collection without creating complete virtual monopoly where now no one can trust how true their data is.
Welcome to Hedera Hashgraphs, gossip about gossip. If you are a developer, an entrepreneur, crypto enthusiast, or just trying to learn more about how distributed ledger technology and Hedera Hashgraph will impact your industry, then you'll love the episodes that we have coming up. Bookmark us, add us to your podcast app, and stay tuned.
Hey there, and welcome to Gossip About Gossip from Hedera Hashgraph. I'm joined today by my more and more normal partner, Cooper Kunz. How are you, Cooper?
I'm doing well, Paul. How about yourself?
Very good. So I'm currently in the middle of a hot Canadian summer infested by mosquitoes, and I'm trying to grow tomatoes, or more specifically, my wife's trying to grow tomatoes. So our topic today is of particular interest. We're talking to Katie Grubb and Bryan Racic from the Public Pest Network, a hackathon participant. Welcome, folks.
Thank you for having us here.
Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, nice to have you. Yeah, as I said, a topic of interest to many people, trying to control pests. But I think you have a broader scope than just keeping them off my tomatoes. Can you tell us about the project?
Basically, Bryan approached me with an idea of how to take insect data or any type of animal data and put it into a public ledger. And I'm an entomologist at the University of Kentucky. I'm getting my master's degree, and my research is focused on biocontrol. I look at what pests are in different gardens and different farms. I speak to growers and I speak to extension agents, and then I use that data to find solutions for those growers. And my whole purpose is to reduce the use of pesticides. So with our project, we can do that, and we can have it on this decentralized database. It allows everyone to see the data and allows us to put the data on another part.
That pest data more widely available and ensuring its consistency and integrity.
Yeah, definitely.
So before you built the Public Pest Network, what was kind of the process that you were using to, aggregate that data and share it with others?
The process that I was using was very simple. It just was very straightforward. We take the data, we put it on an Excel sheet, we export the Excel sheet to a PDF, and then we email it to growers, or we email it to extension agents. There was really no place to put the data and then no place to see all the data. It was just, here's the spreadsheet for this week, and then that's it.
And you said Bryan approached you about the idea of using a blockchain or, a public ledger like Hedera. Bryan, could you give us a little bit of background on yourself and why you pitched Katie on the idea?
By day, I'm actually I do completely different stuff, but by night, I'm a blockchain and hackathon enthusiast. And over the summer, MLH happened to sponsor a blockchain hackathon, so I got super excited. I joined up with two of our teammates and really close friends, Jacob Linneman and Lily Sutton, who still part of the team now, just unfortunately couldn't make it today. But we were trying to come up with ideas for good uses of blockchain before the actual thing started and everything, trying to just scratch board ideas, whatever. And then we really couldn't come up with anything unique. I've done this a couple times so far, different blockchain projects, trying to build our own cryptocurrency, distributed voting systems, all that stuff. But we really wanted something unique. And this time we actually really wanted to solve a problem instead of just doing the general hackathon thing. And we had watched Katie sit on our couch and where we live very close to each other. And she takes these little note cards and then we'll look at the bugs and then tally them on paper. And we always made jokes that we could totally automate the solution and do it better because we're just a bunch of engineers and blah, 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 blah. And so when we needed ideas for the blockchain-based hackathon, I ended up texting Katie and just sort of just a shot in the dark. I didn't really expect it to have this much application, but I was looking forward hey, is there any point in time in which this pest data would be really useful on a public ledger? Secure, decentralized, easy to access, a couple different options like that. And Katie really got kind of excited because apparently this isn't something I realized before. I learned a lot about bugs in this whole thing and the bug data collection, but it really is something that's really applicable. And we had the chance to not only, add some automation and in general make this whole process a lot easier for Katie and, entomologists across the United States and hopefully the world, but also really had a really, really good blockchain application as well. And all of this data now has a chance to, instead of just being localized to individual growers and areas and everything, now we actually have a chance to, aggregate that data into one general location that then we have the option to do some really cool data science applications on. All of that came out as we entered in this first hackathon. We ended up doing very well on it. We got a lot of recognition and then got even more recognition as Katie went back and showed her department at the University of Kentucky. And then we actually got, you guys invited us to talk about the second hackathon, which was a little bit more professional than stuff we had done previously, but was super fun. And so we actually got the chance to really make something that we thought was going to last and had the chance to really make an impact in the future. Normally in hackathons, it's more of a just cut corners, don't sleep, kind of build whatever. But this one was 6 weeks, and so we had the chance to build something really proud of and are still working on to really turn into a real product, which I'm really excited about.
Katie has a favorite bug. What is yours?
My favorite bug is the whitefly because Katie keeps showing them to me and they're kind of a little bit cute. I think we are actually going to turn that into a logo at some point.
Awesome.
So you said that in the past, Katie would write down these kind of physical, I don't know if they're like bug cards or what you'd like to call them, but basically paper reports of how many bugs you find in a specific farm or a specific area. You would take that manually written data and upload it to an Excel sheet. And really anyone who had access to that Excel sheet could have insights into that data. How does moving it to a public distributed ledger, or as you nicely called it, a decentralized database like Hedera, help you and other researchers do your job, Katie?
Well, for me, I think just having this place where I can put all of my data in and have it organized already, and it just makes the whole process easier. And then I know on the side of the public and the people I work with, it makes it easier for them to receive the data because they can get on there and see it in different ways. And we're planning on having like heat maps and stuff to show the data. I think it would be a lot more meaningful to them to look and see that heat map distribution of insects, whereas now I just send them a piece of paper and it says 400 fungus gnats. Well, what are they going to do with that?
That's great. And so how would something like that help Paul's tomatoes or, on a larger scale, our food supply?
Bringing your fungus gnats anywhere near my tomatoes.
My favorite thing about this project is that it does have so many applications, and it could definitely be used by anyone around the world. Something that we would love to have is a prediction system where we have different areas with a bunch of different insects, and we could say like, hey, the aphids in this area are very high this year. You might want to watch your garden for aphids. So with all the mosquitoes there in Canada, I'm sure that we could maybe have like a little warning system for when the mosquitoes start to get really high.
Sounds, Katie, like there'd be an opportunity for sort of artificial intelligence analysis. You've got this great data now from multiple counties, multiple countries. There's an opportunity to look for patterns in the bugs and maybe their migration paths. I think I've just tapped out my knowledge of bugs there. But yeah, I'm sure there's patterns there that might be invisible to a single researcher, but putting it all together, there's value there.
Yeah, definitely.
Bryan, as one of the engineers working on the Public Pest Network, why were you excited about blockchains? Why do you think that this is a good use case for a distributed ledger like Hedera?
It really, at first, I wasn't even quite sure, but then the more we got into it, the more I really realized like, hey, this is a really, really awesome solution. And specifically Hedera too. I think we started out looking at, doing some Ethereum smart contract or something like that. And then the complexity of it overall just got, worse and worse. And then I think we actually, as we got more into Hedera, we really found that the applications you guys provide both simplify and is a really robust system that makes everyone feel a little more comfortable. I think that there are a couple different problems there. And the biggest of which is, data aggregation, which is pretty easily solved by, and the aggregated data both has to be provided by several different universities, not all of, and not universities either. They have to all agree on who's providing the data, which data they trust. That's a huge thing, is like trust in this community and everything. And so we really wanted a way that universities could both pick who they want to listen to and what they want to listen to, and everyone has their own copy of their own data while still leaving it publicly accessible. And there's other limitations to that as well, which is you living in Canada in a certain area might really care about what the university next to you's data is. You don't really care about what's happening in California, but we don't want to make the information in California any less informative or specific to them. So while we were originally looking for a blockchain just to decentralize the data, just make it a little more secure, and really add some really easy automation for reviewers like Katie that transcended just individual universities or individual programs. Because I'm sure, as you guys are aware too, academically trying to make 14 different doctors all trying to decide on the same system, all of which might not be the most tech literate, but really want to know what's going on behind the scenes. It's really helpful to have both a system in place behind the scenes that is easy to explain, but also easy for them to understand and put trust in, instead of having to sit in front of a giant board as we try and decide the best way and best database technology and try and convince them all that they have to upkeep this database and maintain it for who knows how many years. Instead, Hedera, besides the fact that it's a really robust system and really easy for us as developers and really easy to explain, but the mirror nodes, honestly, I think are the coolest thing in my opinion, because you can actually go through and each university has their own separate copy of their data, and then each one can then choose where they want their data to come from, where they want to go, and then we're just going to provide access, easy ways for these universities to add data to this public ledger, review it on their mirror nodes, and then allow access for both nationwide access to all this data and organization, but then also for each individual mirror node for each university or collaboration between universities and organizations. They then have access to their stuff and for the locality next to them.
Brian, that sort of hints at what I imagine could be an issue. Is there a privacy angle here? Is it conceivable that a given farmer, might not want it public that they've got a certain bug infestation, gnats or otherwise?
Yeah, for sure. And again, this isn't something I even thought about until I talked to Katie about this, which is the anonymity aspect of this. From a computer science perspective, I assume everyone wants data all the time, unless it's your very personal privacy data. But farmers don't actually want people to know what kind of bugs they have. As Katie's explained to me, they're a little bit protective of that information and can even be a little bit embarrassed by it, even though it's nothing you can really handle or control super easily without Katie's work. And so we really wanted a anonymized way for both anonymized and accountable way to add data, which would keep the farmers pretty anonymous, but leave accountability with the reviewers who are collecting that data. We even had to come up with specific ways of handling that, because the vastness of farms can totally throw off the anonymity of our data when we just go location-based. And so we had to change some of the ways we handle zip codes and location-based submission and everything. But that was another huge aspect of the public pest of the distributed ledger that really added to that, was the anonymity option and accountability.
Yeah, it occurs to me that the heat map that Katie described might give away that anonymity depending on how granular was the geodata.
No, for sure.
It's a good question over something that's really taking currently siloed data that no one has insights into unless someone like Katie happens to send you the link to their spreadsheet, and kind of turning that data into a public good data set, data that everyone should have the ability and the rights to have insights into, because even though a single farm might not want to put that information out into the world, that the implications of those pests and those bugs could impact everyone. It's not just that one person's or that one farm's problem. The big issue is that it can spread to everyone and affect a lot more than just an individual farm.
And it's not a DLT project unless we wave our hands and imagine an incentivization model whereby maybe the farmer is paid for their bug data.
That would be interesting. I really liked what you had to say, Brian, about how instead of trying to get a community and every university in the country to agree on an implementation, a type of database, a structure and content for keeping that data consistent between them, and instead they can just listen to the Hedera consensus service through our mirror nodes and store and process that data in whatever type of system they want. If they want to output that data into an Excel spreadsheet again, or if they want to host it in a MongoDB database, it doesn't really matter to the Public Pest Network. Could you comment a bit more on that and how this might help someone that's doing, data science research, for example?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think there's a couple layers to that. And the first is it's kind of crazy that there's no other database period of pest data, especially that's constantly updated based on time and location. And I honestly think that the whole reason behind that is of this huge problem of how do you get all of these universities to agree? Some of them don't even necessarily use just university organizations. Some of them use options outside of academia. And then how do you get all these universities to agree and trust each other and create one standard of data collection without creating complete virtual monopoly where now no one can trust how true their data is or anything. And I think that really the mirror nodes are what solves that, which I think is really cool and is a really unique option for this application, which is the ability that we can really easily make sure everyone doesn't have to agree. You guys can all have your own opinions and have your own data. I think it's even cooler too, because now that everyone doesn't have to agree on their data and we can aggregate it into one, and then comes the data science applications, which Katie shocked me. Apparently they have stuff where you can actually tell based on what pests and where and the seasons and everything, they can actually give you like a solid percent impact on revenue for an agricultural individual or industry, which is crazy. I think that's a huge deal that we could actually say like, hey, you have this bug in this place, and there's going to be a 15% drop in your profits unless you do this one thing. And it's only accessible to those who have access to that algorithm, know about it, then are able to contact each reviewer to then get that data sheet back and try and collaborate them. And again, I mean, it's just not. It's not viable right now or super easy for someone, especially who is a little bit smaller farm or isn't, in the know with all this stuff. So that's really honestly what I'm super excited about, is taking all the stuff that the entomology community already has and is doing really, really, really cool research with, and opening up not just for more people to use the research already created by the entomology community, but like I myself, I work in data science a little bit during the day, and I'm really excited to play with this data as it comes in and see what really cool things we can find. Right now, I mean, Katie talked about the prediction stuff of, hey, can we try and do preventative options for pest control as opposed to reactionary, but also in as well, of course, the actual like product cost evaluation. I think it'd be really cool to see not only the applications we come up with and the sort of visualization and prediction tools we have, but what other people are able to do with this data by opening it up and allowing other data scientists to play with it. I think some really cool and hopefully really useful things can come of it.
I can imagine some soybean trader being very interested in your data set, right? If it were to give
Absolutely.
him or her some predictability in soybean futures.
For sure.
Well, Katie, now that you have this initial project that you have developed from the Hedera 20 hackathon and the MLH Hack the Chain event, both of which you ended up winning awesome prizes with, what do you think is the future for yourself and the Public Pest Network? How is this going to help the entomology community?
Well, for me personally, I'm planning on using the web app that we made and integrating it into my thesis. And that will allow me to give talks about it, different entomological conferences and different universities. That will also allow me, it'll kind of open up doors for more support. And then with that, just Public Pest Network as a whole, I'm hoping to continue with my team for the next year or two and really build up our web app to something that everyone can use, and kind of how Bryan was talking about how everyone could benefit from this data. And people who aren't entomologists, like just your grandma, gardening, she could benefit from knowing what pests might be in the area. And something that entomologists think about, but normal people don't, is that bugs fly. And so these bugs are going everywhere. And it's very important to be able to have this communication that we've never had before.
Fascinating. Hopefully it can help Paul with his tomato farming.
Katie, is it okay if I send some pics of my tomatoes? And
yeah, actually, I would love that.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for your time. It's fascinating to learn about what you're doing, the inspiration behind the Public Pest Network, and how I feel like this can help out, researchers, academics, data scientists, or anyone who cares about the quality and maintenance of our food supply. So thank you so much. We look forward to seeing your project, continue to progress, deploy on the mainnet, and hopefully we can have you back on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having us.